Buddham Namah Dhammam Namah Sangham Namah.
12. The princes replied to the prime minister. One, having heard these specious words of his, well supported by sacred tradition, the prince made reply in a voice like the thundering of a cloud. 2. This speech manifesting affection is well befitting in thee, but I will convince thee as to where thou wrongly judgest me. 3. I do not despise worldly objects. I know that all mankind is bound up therein. But remembering that the world is transitory, my mind cannot find pleasure in them. 4. Yet even though this beauty of women were to remain perpetual, still delight in the pleasures of desires would not be worthy of the wise man. 5. And as for what thou sayest as to even those great men having become victim to desire, do not be led away by them, for destruction was also their lot. 6. Real greatness is not to be found there where there is destruction, or where there is attachment to earthly objects, or a want of self-control. 7. And when thou sayest, let one deal with women by guile, I know about guile, even if it be accompanied with courtesy. 8. That compliance with a woman's wishes pleases me not, if truthfulness be not there. If there be not a union with one's whole soul and nature, then out upon it say I. 9. A soul overpowered by passion, believing in falsehood, carried away by attachment and blind to the faults of its objects, what is there in it worth being deceived? 10. And if the victims of passion do deceive one another, are not men unfit for women to look at and women for men? 11. Since then these things are so, thou surely wouldst not lead me astray into ignoble pleasures. 12. Udain felt silenced by the firm and strong resolve of the prince, and reported the matter to his father. 13. Suddhana, when he heard how his son's mind turned away from all objects of sense, could not sleep all that night. Like an elephant, with an arrow in his heart, he was full of pain. 14. He and his ministers spent much of their time in consultation, hoping to find some means to draw Siddhartha to the pleasures of carnal life, and thus to dissuade him from the likely turn which he may give to his life. But they found no other means besides those they had tried. 15. And the seraglio of women wearing their garlands and ornaments, in vain, with their graceful arts and endearments all fruitless, concealing their love deep in their hearts, was disbanded. 13. Initiation into the Sakya Sangh. 1. The Sakyas had their Sangh. Every Sakya youth above 20 had to be initiated into the Sangh and be a member of the Sangh. 2. Siddhartha Gautama had reached the age of 20. It was time for him to be initiated into the Sangh and become a member thereof. 3. The Sakyas had a meeting house which they called Sathagar. It was situated in Kalavatsu. The session of the Sangh was also held in the Sathagar. 4. With the object of getting Siddhartha initiated into the Sangh, Suddhana asked the Purohit of the Sakyas to convene a meeting of the Sangh. 5. Accordingly, the Sangh met at Kalsu in the Sathagar of the Sakyas. 6. At the meeting of the Sangh, the Purohit proposed that Siddhartha be enrolled as a member of the Sangh. 7. The Senapati of the Sakyas then rose in his seat and addressed the Sangh as follows. Siddhartha Gautama, born in the family of Suddhana, of the Sakya clan, desires to be a member of the Sangh. He is 20 years of age and is in every way fit to be a member of the Sangh. I, therefore, move that he be made a member of the Sakya Sangh. Pray, those who are against the motion speak. 8. No one spoke against it. A second time do I ask those who are against the motion to speak, said the Senati. 9. No one rose to speak against the motion. Again the Senati said, A third time do I ask those who are against the motion to speak. 10. Even for the third time no one spoke against it. 11. It was the rule of procedure among the Sakyas that there could be no debate without a motion, and no motion could be declared carried unless it was passed 3 times. 12. The motion of the city having been carried 3 times without opposition, Siddhartha was declared to have been duly admitted as a member of the Sakya Sangh. 13. Thereafter, the Purohit of the Sakya stood up and asked Siddhartha to rise in his place. 14. Addressing Siddhartha, he said, Do you realize that the Sangh has honored you by making you a member of it? I do, sir, replied Siddhartha. 15. Do you know the obligation of membership of the Sangh? I am sorry, sir, I do not. But I shall be happy to know them, sir, said Siddhartha. 16. I shall first tell you what your duties as a member of the Sangh are, said the Purohit, and he then related them one by one. 1. You must safeguard the interests of the Sakyas by your body, mind, and money. 2. You must not absent yourself from the meetings of the Sangh. 3. You must without fear or favor expose any fault you may notice in the conduct of a Sakya. 4. You must not be angry if you are accused of an offense, but confess if you are guilty or state if you are innocent. 17. Proceeding, the Purohit said, I shall next tell you what will disqualify you for membership of the Sangh. 1. You cannot remain a member of the Sangh if you commit rape. 2. You cannot remain a member of the Sangh if you commit murder. 3. You cannot remain a member of the Sangh if you commit theft. 4. You cannot remain a member of the Sangh if you are guilty of giving false evidence. 18. I am grateful to you, sir, said Siddhartha, for telling me the rules of discipline of the Sakya Sangh. I assure you I will do my best to follow them in letter and in spirit. 14. Conflict with the Sangh. 1. 8 years had passed by since Siddhartha was made a member of the Sakya Sangh. 2. He was a very devoted and steadfast member of the Sangh. He took the same interest in the affairs of the Sangh as he did in his own. His conduct as a member of the Sangh was exemplary, and he had endeared himself to all. 3. In the 8th year of his membership, an event occurred which resulted in a tragedy for the family of Sana and a crisis in the life of Siddhartha. 4. This is the origin of the tragedy. 5. Bordering on the state of the Sakyas was the state of the Kolyas. The 2 kingdoms were divided by the river Runi. 6. The waters of the Runi were used by both the Sakyas and the Kolyas for irrigating their fields. Every season there used to be disputes between them as to who should take the water of the Runi first and how much. These disputes resulted in quarrels and sometimes in affrays. 7. In the year when Siddhartha was 28, there was a major clash over the waters between the servants of the Sakyas and the servants of the Kolyas. Both sides suffered injuries. 8. Coming to know of this, the Sakyas and the Kolyas felt that the issue must be settled once for all by war. 9. The Senati of the Sakyas therefore called a session of the Sakyat Sangh to consider the question of declaring war on the Kolyas. 10. Addressing the members of the Sangh, the Senati said, Our people have been attacked by the Kolyas and they had to retreat. Such acts of aggression by the Kolyas have taken place more than once. We have tolerated them so far, but this cannot go on. It must be stopped, and the only way to stop it is to declare war against the Kolyas. I propose that the Sangh do declare war on the Kolyas. Those who wish to oppose may speak.
Sangham Namah.
11. Siddhartha Gautama rose in his seat and said, I oppose this. Resolution. War does not solve any question. Waging war will not serve our purpose. It will sow the seeds of another war. The slayer gets a slayer in his turn. The conqueror gets one who conquers him. A man who despoils is despoiled in his turn. 12. Siddhartha Gautama continued, I feel that the Sangh should not be in haste to declare war on the Koliyas. Careful investigation should be made to ascertain who is the guilty party. I hear that our men have also been aggressors. If this be true, then it is obvious that we Jews are not free from blame. 13. The Senapati replied, Yes, our men were the aggressors, but it must not be forgotten that it was our turn to take the water first. 14. Siddhartha Gautama said, This shows that we are not completely free from blame. I therefore propose that we elect a man from us, and the Koliyas should be asked to elect from them, and the four should elect a fifth person, and these should settle the dispute. 15. The amendment moved by Siddhartha Gautama was duly seconded, but the Senapati opposed the amendment, saying, I am sure that this matters of the Koliyas will not end unless they are severely punished. 16. The resolution and the amendment had therefore to be put to vote. The amendment moved by Siddhartha Gautama was put first. It was declared lost by an overwhelming majority. 17. The Senapati next put his own resolution to vote. Siddhartha Gautama again stood up to oppose it. I beg the Sangh, he said, not to accept the resolution. The Sakyas and the Koliyas are close relations. It is unwise that they should destroy each other. 18. The Senapati encountered the plea urged by Siddhartha Gautama. He stressed that in war the Kshatriyas cannot make a distinction between relations and strangers. They must fight even against brothers for the sake of their kingdom. 19. Performing sacrifices is the duty of the Brahmins. Fighting is the duty of the Kshatriyas. Trading is the duty of the Vaishyas, and service is the duty of the Shudras. There is merit in each class forming its duty. Such is the injunction of our Shafras. 20. Siddhartha replied, Karma, as I understand it, consists in recognizing that enmity does not disappear by enmity. It can be conquered by love only. 21. The Senapati, getting impatient, said, It is unnecessary to enter upon this philosophical disquisition. The point is that Siddhartha is opposed to my resolution. Let us ascertain what the Sangh has to say about it by putting it to vote. 22. Accordingly, the Senapati put his resolution to vote. It was declared carried by an overwhelming majority. 15. Offer of exile. 1. Next day, the Senapati called another meeting of the Sakyat Sangh to have his plan of mobilization considered by the Sangh. 2. When the Sangh met, he proposed that he be permitted to proclaim an order calling to arms for the war against the Koliyas every Sakya between the ages of 20 and 50. 3. The meeting was attended by both sides, those who at the previous meeting of the Sangh had voted in favor of a declaration of war, as well as those who had voted against it. 4. For those who had voted in favor, there was no difficulty in accepting the proposal of the Senate. It was a natural consequence of their earlier decision. 5. But the minority who had voted against it had a problem to face. Their problem was to submit or not to submit to the decision of the majority. 6. The minority was determined not to submit to the majority. That is the reason why they had decided to be present at the meeting. Unfortunately, none of them had the courage to say so openly. Perhaps they knew the consequences of opposing the majority. 7. Seeing that his supporters were silent, Siddhartha stood up and, addressing the Sangh, said, Friends, you may do what you like. You have a majority on your side, But I am sorry to say I shall oppose your decision in favor of mobilization. I shall not join your army and I shall not take part in the war. 8. The Senapti, replying to Siddhartha Gautama, said, Do remember the vows you had taken when you were admitted to the membership of the Sangh. If you break any of them, you will expose yourself to public shame. 9. Siddhartha replied, Yes, I have pledged myself to safeguard the best interests of the Sakyas by my body, mind and money. But I do not think that this war is in the best interests of the Sakyas. What is public shame to me before the best interests of the Sakyas? 10. Siddhartha proceeded to caution the son by reminding it of how the Sakyas have become the vassals of the king of Kosi by reason of their quarrels with the Koliyas. It is not difficult to imagine, he said, that this war will give him a greater handle to further reduce the freedom of the Sakyas. 11. The Senapti grew angry and addressing Siddhartha said, Your eloquence will not help you. You must obey the majority decision of the Sangh. You are perhaps counting upon the fact that the Sangh has no power to order an offender to be hanged or to exile him without the sanction of the king of the Koslas, and that the king of the Koslas will not give permission if either of the sentences was passed against you by the Sangh. 12. But remember, the Sangh has other ways of punishing you. The Sangh can declare a social boycott against your family, and the Sangh can confiscate your family lands. For this, the Sangh does not have to obtain the permission of the king of the Koslas. 13. Siddhartha realized the consequences that would follow if he continued his opposition to the Sangh in its plan of war against the Koliyas. He had 3 alternatives to consider: to join the forces and participate in the war, to consent to being hanged or exiled, and to allow the members of his family to be condemned to a social boycott and confiscation of property. 14. He was firm in not accepting the first. As to the third, he felt it was unthinkable. Under the circumstances, he felt that the second alternative was the best. 15. Accordingly, Siddhartha spoke to the son, Please do not punish my family. Do not put them in distress by subjecting them to a social boycott. Do not make them destitute by confiscating their land, which is their only means of livelihood. They are innocent. I am the guilty person. Let me alone suffer for my wrong. Sentence me to death or exile, whichever you like. I will willingly accept it, and I promise I shall not appeal to the king of the Koslas.
Dhamma,
16. Parivraja, the way out. 1. The Senapti said, It is difficult to accept your suggestion, for even if you voluntarily agree to undergo the sentence of death or exile, the matter is sure to become known to the king of the Koslas, and he is sure to conclude that it is the Sangh which has inflicted this punishment and take action against the Sangh. 2. If this is a difficulty, I can easily suggest a way out, said Siddhartha Gautama. I can become a Parivraja and leave this country. It is a kind of an exile. 3. The Senapati thought this was a good solution, but he had still some doubt about Siddhartha being able to give effect to it. 4. So the Senapati asked Siddhartha, How can you become a Parivraja unless you obtain the consent of your parents and your wife? 5. Siddhartha assured him that he would do his best to obtain their permission. I promise, he said, to leave this country immediately whether I obtain their consent or not. 6. The Sangh felt that the proposal made by Siddhartha was the best way out, and they agreed to it. 7. After finishing the business before the meeting, the Sangh was about to rise when a young Sakya got up in his place and said, Give me a hearing. I have something important to say. 8. Being granted permission to speak, he said, I have no doubt that Siddharth Gautama will keep his promise and leave the country immediately. There is, however, one question over which I do not feel very happy. 9. Now that Siddharth will soon be out of sight, does the Sangh propose to give immediate effect to its declaration of war against the Koliyas? 10. I want the Sangh to give further consideration to this question. In any event, the king of the Koslas is bound to come to know of the exile of Siddharth Gautama. If the Sakyas declare a war against the Koliyas immediately, the king of Koslas will understand that Siddharth left only because he was opposed to war against the Koliyas. This will not go well with us. 11. I, therefore, propose that we should also allow an interval to pass between the exile of Siddharth Gautama and the actual commencement of hostilities, so as not to allow the king of Kosa to establish any connection between the two. 12. The Sangh realized that this was a very important proposal, and, as a matter of expediency, the Sangh agreed to accept it. 13. This ended the tragic session of the Sakya Sangh and the minority which was opposed to the war but who had not the courage to say so heaved a sigh of relief that it was able to overcome a situation full of calamitous consequences. 17. Parting words. 1. The news of what happened at the meeting of the Sakya Sangh had traveled to the Raja's palace long before the return of Siddharth Gautama. 2. For on reaching home he found his parents weeping and plunged in great grief. 3. Sudna said, We were talking about the evils of war, but I never thought that you would go to such lengths. 4. Siddharth replied, I too did not think things would take such a turn. I was hoping that I would be able to win over the Sakyas to the cause of peace by my argument. 5. Unfortunately, our military officers had so worked up the feelings of the men that my argument failed to have any effect on them. 6. But I hope you realize how I have saved the situation from becoming wars. I have not given up the cause of truth and justice, and whatever the punishment for my standing for truth and justice, I have succeeded in making its infliction personal to me. 7. Sudana was not satisfied with this. You have not considered what is to happen to us. But that is the reason why I undertook to become a Parivraja, replied Siddharth. Consider the consequences if the Sakyas had ordered the confiscation of your lands. 8. But without you, what is the use of these lands to us? Cried Suddhodana. Why should not the whole family leave the country of the Sakyas and go into exile along with you? 9. Prajapati Gautri, who was weeping, joined Suddhodana in argument, saying, I agree. How can you go alone leaving us here like this? Then Siddharth said, Mother, have you not always claimed to be the mother of a Kshatriya? Is that not so? You must then be brave. This grief is unbecoming of you. What would you have done if I had gone to the battlefield and died? Would you have grieved like this? 11. No, replied Gautami. That would have been befitting a Kshatriya. But you are now going into the jungle far away from people, living in the company of wild beasts. How can we stay here in peace? I say you should take us along with you. 12. How can I take you all with me? Nanda is only a child. Rahul, my son, is just born. Can you come leaving them here? He asked Gautami. 13. Gautami was not satisfied. She urged, It is possible for us all to leave the country of the Sakyas and go to the country of the Koslas under protection of their king. 14. But mother, what would the Sakyas say? Asked Siddharth. Would they not regard it as treason? Besides, I pledge that I will do nothing either by word or by deed to let the king of the Koslas know the true cause of my Parivraja. 15. It is true that I may have to live alone in the jungle, but which is better, to live in the jungle or to be a party to the killing of the Koliyas? 16. But why this impatience? Asked Sudguna. The Sakya Sangh has decided to postpone the date of the hostilities for some time. 17. Perhaps the hostilities may not be started at all. Why not postpone your Parivraja? Maybe it will be possible to obtain the permission of the Sangh for you to stay among the Sikhs. 18. This idea was repellent to Siddharth. It is because I promised to take Parivraja that the Sangh decided to postpone the commencement of hostilities against the Kolyas. 19. It is possible that after I take Parivraja, his Sangh may be persuaded to withdraw their declaration of war. All this depends upon my first taking Parivraja. 20. I have made a promise and I must carry it out. The consequences of any breach of promise may be very grave both to us and to the cause of peace. 21. Mother, do not now stand in my way. Give me your permission and your blessings. What is happening is for the best. 22. Gautami and Sudgona kept silent. 23. Then Siddharth went to the apartment of Yeshwara. Seeing her, he stood silent, not knowing what to say and how to say it. She broke the silence by saying, I have heard all that has happened at the meeting of the Sangh at Kertu. 24. He asked her, Yeshwara, tell me what you think of my decision to take Parivraja. 25. He expected she would collapse. Nothing of the kind happened. 26. With full control over her emotions, she replied, What else could I have done if I were in your position? I certainly would not have been a party to a war on the Kolyas. 27. Your decision is the right decision. You have my consent and my support. I too would have taken Parivraja with you. If I do not, it is only because I have Rula to look after. 28. I wish it had not come to this. But we must be bold and brave and face the situation. Do not be anxious about your parents and your son. I will look after them till there is life in me. 29. All I wish is that now that you are becoming a Parivraja, leaving behind all who are near and dear to you, you will find a new way of life, which would result in the happiness of mankind. 30. Siddharth Gautama was greatly impressed. He realized as never before what a brave, courageous and noble-minded woman Yeshwara was, and how fortunate he was in having her as his wife, and how fate had put them asunder. He asked her to bring Rahula. He cast his fatherly look on him and left.